left 10. Hart tips it in and it's Ward. He spins into the end zone for the touchdown. Watching greatness on one end in LeBron. There's a dude with 35 in white getting it done defensively and then offense taking over the fight. Mama, there goes that man.
They have shared a brilliant championship battle, but the championship can only be won by one, and it's going Dutch in 2021. Max Verstappen, for the first time ever, is champion of the world.
Hello everybody and welcome to the newest edition of the Waterboy Experience. I am your host, the Waterboy himself, Davis McLemore, and I gotta be honest, I'm in a fighting mood today. I feel like really kicking someone's ass, but I need a worthy opponent. Patrick Mahomes, where are you at? You can come find me wherever you're at. Regardless, we got a good bit to talk about today with a review of UFC 276, sprinkled with a little bit of NFL rumors as well as some nondescript motorsports, as well as a review of the Formula One race that took place across the pond in Britain, as well as the drama surrounding it. And in the opposing corner is the gear-headed freak, the Red Bull chugging son of a gun. He's a hell of a fighter. He has a record of 52 wins and 0 losses. Of course, his ex-girlfriend is not nearly as good of a fighter because she's 0-52. Please welcome the CEO and CFO of Nye Productions, Jason Shaddix. Jason, how are you, man?
You're gonna get me in so much fucking trouble one of these days, I swear to God.
What we do on the show is just tell the truth. And what I'm doing here is tell the truth. Your ex-girlfriend is not a really good fighter, but that's okay. You had some heavy competition.
You're a fucking bastard, that's what you are.
Alright, so at the top of the show, let's go ahead and mention Joey Chestnut. The glizzy gobbling god ate 63 hot dogs to win his 15th Nathan's hot dog eating contest. He also did this with a ruptured tendon. What a champ. What a performance. This was Michael Jordan playing with food poisoning sickness. This was Ronnie Lott breaking his finger during a football game and telling the trainers to just cut it off. Chestnut's just cut it off was, quote, "You don't need your leg to eat, dumbass, let me compete." So, hats off to the glizzy gobbling god Joey Chestnut for eating 63 hot dogs in the 15th Nathan's hot dog eating contest. He's got Tom Brady beat by a long shot if Super Bowls were Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Anyway, so you did mention off air that you wanted to talk about Gronk retiring. Let's go ahead and talk about that. Rob Gronkowski retires after how many seasons?
I have no fucking idea. It's just that last time we recorded, about 2 hours after we finished recording, it came out that Gronk retired again.
There we were sitting in Fat Boy's Pizza, stuffing our faces, and then I get a notification literally hours after we recorded the episode that Rob Gronkowski retired, and I was like, you're kidding me! But, yes, so Rob Gronkowski retired. He's been in the NFL as long as I can remember, I guess.
Even his manager said, I don't think Gronk is going to stay retired. I think Tom Brady's going to pull him out of retirement one more time.
They're going to back a truckload of money up to his house, and they'll figure something out. But that makes you wonder how good you think Tom Brady can still win a Super Bowl without Gronk. He's done it before, but he's later in his career. Does he need Gronk to win, or do you think that he can handle it without him? Assuming that Gronk doesn't come back.
I think he can win it without Gronk. I'm just surprised that we're spending so much time on Gronk.
Well, I mean, it's kind of big news. It's old news now. By now he might have already said he's not going to retire, So
it depends on how many massage girls he's given.
Whoa. No more massage girls. We're done with that. This is actually the first episode that we don't really have anything new about Deshaun Watson to talk about.
Yeah, but I'm still trying to make it into the Deshaun Watson podcast.
That's a future endeavor one day. But let's move on to UFC 276. So, UFC 276 took place in Las Vegas, Nevada in the T-Mobile Arena this past Saturday night, and it was a hell of a card. And we saw some interesting faces appear. Some of these names included magician and illusionist Chris Angel. I haven't seen him in years. Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Pratt, Joe Burrow, Jesse Bates, and Shadobe Awuzie. But probably the most intriguing was the appearance of Nick Khan, Pat McAfee, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and Vince McMahon. What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, who are those people? Is what everybody in that arena said and everybody at home said?
Exactly. I mean, I bet you a lot of people know Pat McAfee and a lot of people know Triple H. And probably a good number of people knew Vince McMahon. They probably looked at Stephanie and were like, what is she doing here? They probably didn't put two and two together or something. Or no, not necessarily who is she. They probably just thought of her as, Triple H's wife. But no, I guarantee you, out of all of those, obviously Nick Khan, they probably just thought, oh, they bought their Indian friend. But Pat McAfee is probably, either Pat McAfee or Triple H is probably the most easily recognizable out of that group. Maybe you can put Vince in that, but yeah.
Again, who the hell are the McMahons?
Good point. But I also want to point out that Tony Khan and Jim Ross were there. Now,
Who?
Tony Khan and Jim Ross.
Who are those?
Oh, come on. Don't quit being like that. But people probably thought, no, I'm not going to say that. But anyway, so how many cons were there?
Well, seeing it was a UFC event, there was a lot of cons.
A lot of cons, yeah. In a white there, you can add another con. Was Joe Rogan on commentary? Add another con.
Was there probably was a few con jobs out in the back.
Vince McMahon being there that's a con being there.
Wasn't it right after the Money in the Bank pay-per-view event?
Yes, it was almost like immediately after, like, because Money in the Bank took place in Las Vegas, so I guess they were like, you know what, we might as well, and they just went across the road to T-Mobile, and they got to see how a real pay-per-view sells, so.
What a real promotion looks like, what a real...
Outsold them by a long shot. I don't have the numbers, but,
No, don't you remember that originally Vince McMahon wanted to have the Money in the Bank pay-per-view at the Raiders Arena?
In Allegiant Stadium,
Yeah,
yes.
in Allegiant Stadium. And then they realized, holy shit, the stadium is fucking huge. We can't put, 80,000 people in this arena?
I mean, Raider fans do it every week, but WWE fans just won't do it.
Football fans, there are more football fans than there are WWE fans.
You got to think about the light bill. Just to turn the power on in that building is insane amount of money.
And then I heard that they tried to get the T-Mobile arena, but then, UFC already
booked it.
Yep, UFC booked it. And what'd you rather have, wrestling or UFC?
That's true. Real fighting or fighting that's been exposed to be fake for the past 20 years. But no, yeah, so it took place. I'm going to read off the card and some of the results. So the early prelim started off with a middleweight bout, Uriah Hall and Andre Muniz.
Monique.
No, not Monique. It's Muniz.
I'm just trying to be funny here, Jack.
Muniz? Okay. It finished in round 3 in 5 minutes. Andre Muniz won. A woman flyweight between Jessica I and Macy Barber finished round 3 with 5 minutes left, and Macy Barber won. And the woman bantamweight, Jessica Clark versus Julia Stoloracano.
It's not so easy now, is it?
It's not. Round 1, 42 seconds, and Julia won. So, good for them. Now, the preliminary card started off with lightweight fight between Brad Riedel and Jalen Turner. Ended in submission, round 1, 45 seconds left. Jalen Turner won. And then Jim Miller and Donald Cowboy Carone finished submission round 2 with 1 minute and 32 seconds. Jim Miller won. And this was also marked the retirement of Donald Cowboy Carone. He left his hat and his gloves, and he later said that he's just lost the passion for it.
Which guy was the one that came out with the Undertaker theme?
I'll get to that. That was in the main card. So the next fight was a welterweight fight between Ian Gary and Gabe Green that finished by a decision, round 3, 5 minutes, and Ian Gary won. Then you had Brad Tavares and Dricus Duplessis. I'm really not good at names. It was a middleweight fight. It ended by decision, and Dricus won. Now we get to the main card. Women flyweight Lauren Murphy versus Misha Tate was canceled. Bantamweight between Pedro Munhoz and Sean O'Malley was a draw, no contest, round 2. And welterweight fight between Robbie Lawler and Brian Barberena was a total knockout by Brian Barberena in round 2. Middleweight Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira was a knockout, a TKO, in round 1. And then a men's featherweight co-main event was Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. It was a decision in the 5th round. And then the guy that came out to the Undertaker theme was middleweight fighter Israel Israel Adesanya. He came out to the Undertaker theme, and it was really cool. One of the cooler UFC walkouts I've seen in a while, but he fought Jared Cannonier, and that went into decision in round 5, and Israel won. So that was UFC 276. What did you think?
Boy, I enjoyed watching you squirm.
It was just as big of a fight to watch me try to put together some of those names.
I think it might have been more entertaining than the actual fight itself for me.
This has been the name segment on the Waterboy Experience.
Tune in next week for me to fuck it up.
We'll just wait until we get to some new driver in F1 or something. They've all got weird names over there. Tell me, where else in the world do you hear a name like Olcon?
It's not the weirdest name I heard. Trying to pronounce Zhou Guan Yu because either they say Zhou Guan Yu or Guan Yu Zhou. So it's one or the other.
What's the difference? Guan Yu Zhou?
I have no idea what the
Isn't
difference.
that a dictator?
No.
This has been the history segment on the Waterboy Experience.
Tune in next week for the sex episode.
There's going to be a sex episode? You didn't tell me about this.
Yeah, it's called the Deshaun Watson lawsuit.
Oh, well, we'll see if anything else new comes out about this. So, shall we go ahead and put everything aside and let's start talking about some Formula One?
Yes, please, because I have a fucking shit ton of notes.
Yeah, before we started recording, I had to wait on you for like 20 minutes to finish your notes. Yeah. Apparently, so what you've told me, apparently you're hot. You're red hot. You're burning up. You're fuming, foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, your fat ass takes all the cold air.
And I'm eating all your croissants. But also, just tell me what it is. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Release your anger onto me.
We'll do that later, because we still have notes to take on first.
Oh, great. Okay.
All right, let's start with something that's not Formula One, but it is nondescript motorsports.
Ah, my favorite.
So, in the World Rally Championship 3, which is the WRC 3, is a junior series that follows the WRC. Follow?
Following.
Okay. Well, it's a series that just gives young drivers the chance to develop their skills whenever they come up to the major states. And on
developmental.
Developmental, essentially. And on June 26th, 25-year-old Maxine Wahome becomes the first woman to score a win in WRC 3. What makes this even more impressive is the fact that this was her first run with the team M Sport, and the win took place in her home country of Kenya. So, yeah, I think that's really impressive, not just because, women have historically not been very, having big role in motorsports throughout the years. It's mostly been a men's sport. So it's always great to see a woman make it through the ranks. And it's also more impressive that, her first run with a brand new team in a car that this is probably the first time she's really gotten a really good run at it. She took the win, and it was in her home country. I think that's just amazing. And NASCAR this past weekend was at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, where Tyler Reddick won his first race in NASCAR, and boy did he have to fight for it, keeping Chase Elliott behind him for over 15 laps. So congrats to old Reddick.
Now, I'll say this before we move on. Chase Elliott is one of the better NASCAR drivers out there, and being able to hold him back, that was impressive. So, good win.
Exactly. Now, let's move on to Formula One news, and I've written up a pretty nice little paragraph that I think you might enjoy.
A rant?
No, not yet. Since 2018, Formula One has grown to prominence in the United States, with the release of Netflix's successful reality series, Drive to Survive, and now racing fans can expect to see more of the world of Formula One. Hulu is working with Daniel Ricciardo on a scripted F1 series which is reportedly in the developmental stages. All that is currently known is that the series will consist of 30-minute episodes. Other projects that we know of are an F1 documentary series involving Apple TV and Lewis Hamilton, and a biopic of Enzo Ferrari starring Kylo Ren himself, Adam Driver, Penelope Cruz, and Shailene Woodley. What do you think about that?
That sounds cool. We'll have to watch that and do a review of it live on the show.
Yeah, I want to see if they capture the meanness, the spirit of Enzo Ferrari.
Who'd you say was playing as Enzo?
It says here it was Adam Driver, a.k.a. Kylo Ren.
That's cool.
That is so fucking cool.
That's really cool.
It is cool. Anyway, in other news, F1 announced that they plan to be net zero carbon by the year 2030. What this means is that F1 will only be producing greenhouse gases equivalent to the greenhouse gases being removed from the atmosphere. This will be done through more sustainable and efficient fuels, as well as engines that will be more efficient than the ones we currently have. And these advancements will make their way down to the rest of the automotive industry. McLaren have announced that due to the budget cap, they have halted all development of the MCL36. It's concerning due to the fact that we are just getting to the halfway point and many teams will still keep on working to improve their car.
So they're just going to stop working on it.
Yes, because
no more upgrades.
No more upgrades. The issue is because there's a budget cap, they can only spend so much money on developing this year's car before they have to start developing next year's car. So they're taking a gamble and are halting all production for this year's cars and working on next year's.
Is that essentially like throwing the season away?
In a way, yes, because teams like Ferrari, Red Bull will be developing their car as much as they can towards the end of the season. But the difference is, Ferrari and Red Bull have developed cars that are really good because of the way they develop their aerodynamics. So they really don't have to do much to improve their car for next year. But teams like McLaren, Haas, and Williams have to go to the drawing board and they have
the ones that are trying to catch back up.
Exactly. Now, keeping with this theme of improving cars, the race in Silverstone was this past weekend. For most of the teams, this makes it a home race as their base of operations are scattered all throughout the UK. This also means that many teams are bringing in quite a few upgrades to the cars, so let's talk about that. Williams was the team that outshined all the rest this weekend by bringing in over 12 upgrades. Those being a brand new front wing, front corner, side pod inlet, floor fence, floor body, halo, floor edge, diffuser, coke/engine cover, cooling louvers, rear suspension, and a rear corner. To put that into perspective, Mercedes was the second team who brought the most upgrades, with only being half of what Williams brought. Now, there was one team though that didn't bring a single upgrade. And no, it wasn't Haas this time, it was actually AlphaTauri.
Wait, so Haas did upgrades?
Yeah, it was a front wing end plate.
Okay. So, do you know why AlphaTauri didn't want to do any upgrades this week?
I'm not sure. I really haven't found anything really that they've talked about.
Interesting decision.
Well, I mean, their home base isn't based in the UK. They're based in Italy. All right, now let's move on to free practice and qualifying. Not much happened in free practice other than the teams were testing out their packages, and they were quite impressive packages.
Impressive packages? Who had the most impressive package?
I think it was Williams because they painted their packages pink, so it was a two-tone car for a while.
There's nothing I like more than a good pink painted package.
An interesting note is that Williams' new driver Alex Albon was the only one to receive the new packages. Well, the new upgrades. Nicholas Latifi has to wait a few weeks before he gets any new upgrades to his car.
Man, I could use an upgrade on my package. I'm telling you. But I'm glad Nicholas Latifi is going to get one.
But I don't think the Canadian has too much worry about, because in the rain-soaked qualifying session, Latifi out-qualified Alex by a whole lot. Albon finished P16 and Latifi got all the way into Q3, finishing in P10. Mick Schumacher, and keep this one in mind throughout the race, finished P19. Carlos Sainz took pole position, followed by Verstappen in P2, Leclerc P3, Checo Perez P4, and Lewis Hamilton was a good P5.
This might have been, just before we start talking, this might have been the best Lewis Hamilton race of the season. Don't you agree?
I think this might have been the best race of the season, period, so far.
Well, yes, but as far as Lewis Hamilton looking at what he's done this season, which is not much, this might be the best performance he's had.
I definitely agree, especially, that Mercedes been having a lot of problems, and I really don't think I don't think it's as much as, Toto Wolff, the team principal and owner of Mercedes, wants to say it's because they need all these regulations changed. And I don't think that's the case. I think they're just trying to make the FIA do what they want so that they get a championship-winning car because they're used to winning. And the car isn't the greatest because it's slower than the Red Bulls. It's slower than the Ferrari at times. But this time, Lewis got a lot out of that car, more than, anybody else could, except maybe George Russell.
You built a shit car. What do you expect? Why don't you just live with it?
Because they can't.
I guess they can.
Anyway, let's start the race review.
Historically, though, Toto Wolff, he is famous for blaming it on the FIA and their regulations and all that stuff.
Yes.
No, Mikey, no. That is so not fair.
Alright, now let's start that race review. Oh boy. I don't know how it'll come out, but it's going to be a bit of a long one. It was a good race, but fuck was it long. Lots of notes.
This is one of the first races that we've done that we both have notes.
Exactly. So let's start this. The race starts and Verstappen gets a better start and overtakes Carlos for P1, but in the background you see smoke and bodyworks flying throughout the rest of the grid. A nasty incident occurred between Zhou Guanyu, George Russell, and Pierre Gasly. Another, though not as bad, incident happened between Alex Albon, Sebastian Vettel, and Esteban Ocon. Let's break down what happened. The light goes green and Gasly gets a good start and starts coming up between Zhou and Russell. They were separated by a good amount of space, enough that Gasly could easily get in between as they were headed for the first turn, which is almost just a flat on the accelerator turn, so just flat out. Russell moves in to close the gap between him and Zhou, and I don't think he saw Pierre, or if he did see him, it wasn't until it was too late. The front wing of Gasly's car hits the side of the Mercedes. The Mercedes then clips the front of Zhou's rear right tire. This causes the Alfa Romeo to flip over, then proceeds to skid through the track and runoff area, then continues to skid into the gravel before hitting the barricade. The car literally gets in the air, barrel rolls over the barricade, and smashes into the catch fence. The car lands on its side, and it scares the fuck out of a few officials who were right behind the fence.
So that was a nasty crash.
Horrible, like
just the momentum it went into the wall, it just went boom. I was like, oh jeez.
Yeah, it was really scary because I was watching this race live, and even though I have F1 Pro TV and I could go back and see what exactly happened, I was, watching it at work, and, I see Max going and overtakes Carlos, and I'm like, yeah, and then in the background I just see the disaster, and I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck happened? Because immediately it was like red flag, the session is stopped, all cars to the pit lane. And I'm like, oh crap, what happened? And I'm waiting for the TV to, show the replay. They didn't show the replay for a good 25 minutes, like almost the entire time they were in a red flag session. And it was because they couldn't make sure that Zhou was good, that he was okay.
Yeah.
They had to get him out the car. And the way the car landed, it landed sideways in between the fence and the barricade. And actually, George Russell, even though his car was still running, he could get back to the pit lane. He stopped, got out of the car, and made sure that Zhou was good. Once he saw Zhou was good, he got back onto this car and tried to start it back up. But because, the car wouldn't just start, there was something like it would not start by itself. They had to take the car back to the pit lane in the truck. And because of the FIA regulation says that even though it's a red flag, you can't repair the car to go back on the field. So, he was DNF. Even though he could continue, he was DNF because of the rules, which I get it. It's a safety precaution. You don't know what really was damaged in that car. But Zhou ended up being okay.
Zhou raced?
No.
Zhou didn't race.
No. He was taken to the medical center. Anyway, the other incident was a result of the first one because in the other Alfa Romeo, Valtteri Bottas sees the accident and slows down. And also because they were getting to the first corner. Now, Alex, who was behind Bottas, hits the brake, but Vettel was too close and it hits Alex, who then spins and hits the barricade to his right, spins again, barely avoids hitting Daniel Ricciardo, and then hits Esteban Ocon's front right tire. And finally, he smashes into Yuki Tsunoda's front wing, who could do nothing about it.
It's that first corner that was just kind of...
It was just a lot of the cars got a really bad start, and that's what happened with Russell and Zhou. Gasly got a good start, so that's why he was in between them. Russell didn't see him. It was an accident. Russell didn't see him. He tried to close the gap, and he just ended up hitting the AlphaTauri, and then because he hit the AlphaTauri, he ended up hitting and clipping the Alfa Romeo, and then it's just a freak accident. The car just went rolling and then just skidding along. And an interesting thing is the cell cage, which is essentially this thing on the top of the cars that you see that looks like, it sucks air in, which it does. It's also used to protect the driver, and that completely broke off. It wasn't supposed to do that. And essentially, the reason why Zhou isn't dead is because the halo protected his head from the rest of the impact.
Now Lewis Hamilton is probably going to make a plea to the FIA that George Russell is dangerous, isn't he?
No, he didn't say jack shit.
I want to say at the restart, Carlos Sainz made a great move on Verstappen.
Hold on, we're not there. We're not there yet.
We're not there yet?
No. So like I said, the race is immediately red flag and everybody's told to slow down and take the cars to the pit lane. Now, you would think this would be the end of all the drama, but nope. A group of 7 reckless, idiotic environmental protesters ran onto the track into Wellington Straight, which is the first straight in Silverstone. All of them sat on the track as the cars were coming through. Luckily, because of the red flag, the cars were going slow, otherwise the cars could have hit the protesters due to the corner leading up to the straight being a blind corner, as noted by the commentators. Everyone involved in that was arrested, and here's the thing. And this is what we were talking about earlier that I was getting real hot about, is the fact that this is a group, we understand you want to save the environment. Like, I get that. I'm 100% behind that. But to do it at a racing event where you were actually given a place to protest because the cops were tipped off before the event, it was like, hey, you guys, we get you a place so you can protest peacefully and there's no problem. They still went onto the track. They could have killed themselves. They could have killed the drivers, could have killed the marshals if the race had gone on and then we hadn't had that issue with Zhou Guanyu. Okay, it's completely stupid. I think, their cause is a good cause, but if you want to go to this length, you're a fucking moron. That's what I think. And I was listening to an interview on Good Morning Britain where one of the spokespersons for the group, which is called Just Stop Oil, said essentially he tried to defend himself, the group, by saying, history will remember us as somebody who did something right, while completely ignoring the fact that he would have ended up killing 7 people. But yeah, that's the rant. I could go on more, but I ranted yesterday, and I was really pissed yesterday when I was doing the notes for that. And I just wanted to say that because, Formula One is a sport where we're doing actually a lot to better the automotive industry by creating brand new fuels, like 100% sustainable fuels, where we won't have to rely completely on fossil fuels. We're trying to perfect hybrid engines. We're doing all this stuff that helps and that we've seen in the last few years go into the automotive industry. So to me, it's people who are ignorant and don't know jack fucking shit. But anyway, there's that.
Before you protest, at least do your research and make sure that what you're protesting and where you're protesting adds up. Because essentially, this is like protesting Burger King burgers by going to a local burger shop. Got nothing to do with the other.
Yeah, in a way. But anyway, the entire racing community said you're all a bunch of fucking idiots that could have gotten a lot of people killed or hurt.
Yeah, that was really irresponsible and that was unprofessional. And now everybody doesn't take you seriously now because now you look like a bunch of idiots.
And this group is known to glue themselves onto Van Gogh artwork as a form of protest and to sabotage gasoline stations. Yeah, you're really showing the people that you're in the right, huh?
I think their mindset is they just want to draw attention to themselves and they don't care what kind of attention.
Well, when it becomes bad attention.
There you go.
Anyway, let's move on. During the red flag, the FIA race control announced that the starting grid for the race would not be how the cars entered into the pit lane, but the original grid setup because most of the cars didn't cross the second safety car line or the pit exit lane before the red flag. Anyway, now let's get on to the restart, and you pointed this out. Carlos Sainz did an amazing job at, keeping his victory, keeping his first place, and cutting off Max Verstappen.
No, I mean, it was kind of impressive. I mean, obviously, we root for Max, but...
Super Max, Super Max.
It wasn't necessarily Super Max this week, but... It was a rough week. It was a really good move. I also noticed that during the race, they were booing Max.
Yes, this is actually something that happened. And it's funny how George Russell and Lewis Hamilton responded to this. They were all booing Max Verstappen, and the racing drivers like Lewis and George were like, "You shouldn't boo people. It's not right. You're essentially gonna hurt their feelings." And Max said, "Yeah, I don't care if they boo. Go ahead, boo them all you want. I don't care."
But you notice, so I might be jumping ahead a lot here, but in lap 42, it was Perez versus Sainz, and they were like neck and neck, and they were fighting it out.
It was Leclerc.
It was Leclerc? Was that Leclerc?
Lap 42. On lap 43, you mean, and that's the restart.
42 or 43, yeah. But while they were fighting, Hamilton sneaked past him and got into P1, and the crowd went absolutely nuts. Is that just because they're in Britain?
Hell yeah, you should have seen them last year when they went into the Dutchland, into the Netherlands for the Dutch Grand Prix. That's Max's home country right there. And people were cheering Max. It was just, yeah, let's go, Maxie. And then when Hamilton came out, it was just, boo, go fuck yourself. And to me, it kind of pisses me off that these drivers are being so snowflake about it. Like, you shouldn't boo people. And I'm like, these people paid to come here. They have a right to boo you. Now, to give you death threats or something like that, no, I don't agree with that, or be racist where you can know. But if they want to boo you, they should be able to boo you. And I mean, I don't hear them complaining when football players are getting booed all the time.
It's the loyalty, and I think that adds to the races, is the loyalty to your hometown boys.
And again, I found it funny how, Hamilton and Russell were making a big deal out of telling the people not to boo Max, and Max is just like, I don't care, you guys can boo all you want, I don't really fucking care.
Was it Monaco that they were going nuts for Leclerc?
Yes, that's
his hometown.
Yeah, that's his hometown. In Mexico, they were.
Oh man.
Oh
yeah.
The people, La Raza, wanted Checo to win, or at least to beat Hamilton. We all hated Hamilton for a few hours after that, but after we got drinking, we kind of let it go.
Yeah, they call him Jesus in a car over there.
Like I said, on the restart, Sainz cuts Verstappen off and pushes him very close to the barricade. And it was a good way to, stop Max from, taking the lead right away. Because once Max takes that lead, if nothing else goes wrong with his car, he's a fucking bullet and he just goes, Byung!
Once it's a Red Bull 1-2, it's over. It's because you got Max out front and then you got Checo defending.
Exactly.
And Checo's one of the best defenders on the grid.
Oh, yeah. But here's what happened. Checo was actually getting very close to Max. He actually was P3, but Leclerc hits Checo on turn 4, causing Checo to receive front wing damage. Checo had to pit the car very early on due to losing so much time in downforce, and ended up being dead last. Now, Leclerc also received some damage, but he ran the whole race with a missing front end plate of his front wing. Right? And it was a bit of a reckless move. I don't think it was worthy of a penalty, but it was definitely something where if I was the FIA, I would have been like, hey, tell Leclerc not to fucking dive bomb like that when he obviously, caused damage. Because he tried to do the same thing to Verstappen, because after that turn, they go into the straight, Wellington straight, then they go into another turn, and then Leclerc tries to dive on to Verstappen, but it's Max, and Max just pushed him off the track while keeping...
Yeah, Max ain't gonna take that shit.
No, you're not gonna get Max to yield. Max would rather crash the car out, as we saw in Italy and Monza with him and Lewis Hamilton. So that's what happened.
Max is that asshole when you're trying to merge onto the interstate. Max is that asshole that won't let you over.
No. Max is that asshole that, when you're trying to do an illegal overtake and Max just won't let you do it because it's not your turn. Wait your goddamn fucking turn. Okay, so on lap 10, Carlos Sainz actually leaves the road. He actually goes wide. Verstappen takes the opportunity and retakes the lead. Okay,
I saw that. Did he just kind of lose control and just kind of drift off?
Yeah, they were kind of dealing with a lot of high winds during the weekend. So the wind just sort of pushed him off and he went a little bit too far and he just lost grip and he just went out the road. And it's something that we saw throughout practice and then later on during the race. Now, around the same time, both AlphaTauris actually spun out the track after Yuki Tsunoda tapped the side of Pierre Gasly's car, and both ended up spinning out the track. Like I said, Yuki was given a 5-second penalty. And Pierre was pissed, and in the interview afterward, he was like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking about. We're definitely going to have a talk about this afterwards. Anyway, on lap 12, Max Verstappen got a puncture after going over a sausage curve. Sainz uses this to overtake Verstappen and take P1. Max pits, but then realizes after a few laps that it wasn't just a puncture, but that the floor of the car was destroyed and he was losing downforce and he could just not compete with the rest of the grid. And he actually ended up finishing P7. He was out of that front runners race, where Checo, Leclerc, and Mercedes, he just could not compete with them, and he was all the way in P7.
Fucking sucks.
Yes, and something the announcer said is, what is under that fucking car? What does Red Bull have that if it gets damaged, because it wasn't really bad damage, it was just something broke off that caused enough damage to slow the car down immensely. And yet, here's the thing, it's they don't understand, you do lose some downforce, but to go from P1 all the way down to P7 and not be able to climb your way back up, that sounds like it was more, there's something special about that Red Bull. Anyway, Leclerc then begins to complain over the radio that Sainz, who was in front of him, was too slow and needed to move aside and let him through. Ferrari told Charles to stay and told Sainz to speed up, essentially giving him a chance to, hey, speed up a little bit. But he couldn't. Anyway, and after that, both Bottas and Gasly retired from the race, which, again, that's another Ferrari engine that's gone out. So,
cars all over the grid just going out.
yes. And after a few laps, Ferrari told Sainz to move aside for Charles because Mercedes were going for the undercut. And on lap 34, Lewis Hamilton pitted, but it was a slow pit stop. And instead of coming out in between both Ferraris, he came out behind them. Now, on lap 39, Esteban Ocon stops mid-track as his car comes to a complete stop. Later on, Alpine says it was due to a fuel pump issue. The safety car comes out while they remove Ocon's car. This gives the front runners a chance to pit for fresh tire. But this is Monaco all over again. Ferrari does not pit Charles Leclerc and instead keeps him out on old, hard tires while Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton and pretty much everybody else on the grid have brand new soft tires on.
The heck?
I have no idea. So, as the safety car comes to an end, Ferrari tells Sainz to essentially hold up the back of the grid. Essentially make sure he's slow enough so Charles gets further away, at least 10 car lengths, and, just bundle up the pack. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that because, one, Charles is on old hard tires, which, we're on brand new softs. And two, that leaves me open for Hamilton to overtake me easily and go after Charles, who he'll overtake very easily. And he doesn't do it. He, goes against the great, brilliant Ferrari strategist and essentially just stays right behind Charles Leclerc. And it was a good thing because once the lap starts on lap 43, Leclerc goes wide and he gets out of the track and Sainz once again takes the lead. At this point, Charles does not have to worry about Lewis, but he does not have to worry about Lewis because now he has to worry about Checo Perez, who had recovered from last place and was running right behind Lewis Hamilton in P4, and Hamilton was getting worried. From here till the end, it was just crazy back and forth between Charles and Hamilton, Checo, and even Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris got into it. But at the end, Checo Perez got P2, Hamilton got P3, and Leclerc got P4. You saw that, right?
Oh, yeah. It was just exciting. Like, my heart was just pounding, like, just watching them all just, like, kind of swap out P1. P2. And, like I said it earlier, Hamilton made a great move on both of them and just snuck right past them.
Oh, yeah. Those, like that entire last 10 laps was some of the best racing I've seen in a very long time. And I'm cheering for Lewis Hamilton at this point. I'm like, let's go, Hamilton. I'm not a Lewis Hamilton fan. I don't like Lewis Hamilton, but he was doing
But Ferraris, you hate more.
No, I don't hate Ferraris. That's the thing. But, just the way Lewis Hamilton was fighting and Charles Leclerc, it was just so exciting. And I wanted Hamilton to overtake Leclerc and go after Carlos. For a while, I thought, holy shit, Lewis has a chance at getting P1, winning the race. And then all of a sudden, here comes Checo, and he's right behind Lewis Hamilton. And then it becomes just a fight between those three. And I'm like, what the fuck? Talk about throwing in a wild card. And then finally, Checo gets past all of them and he's hunting down Carlos Sainz. But at this time, Carlos Sainz, there's no car in front of him, fresh, clean air, and he hadn't had to waste his tires away fighting those guys. He's just off. He's doing his thing. Checo tries to catch him. He doesn't. And like I said, he got P2 all the way from P19, where he was, P18, all the way from the bottom to second place. Again, what has Adrian Newey come up with those Red Bulls? Because there's something really fast about those cars.
They're going up really fast and they're going down really fast. It's crazy.
I know. But I have one more thing before we end this review. While all that was going on, Mick Schumacher, good old Schumi, was fighting Max Verstappen for P7. They fought hard the last few laps all the way till the end. And there was the times where I was like, holy shit, Mick is going to pass Max Verstappen. But, Max is very aggressive, so he wasn't going to get through. And he just managed to hold off Schumacher until the end. But still, Mick Schumacher finally got points in Formula 1, finishing P8. And Kevin Magnussen finished P10 for a double points finish for the Haas.
That's actually really impressive. See, now I'm wondering what did they do to that Haas?
The front wing plate.
Yeah.
But it was really fucking amazing just seeing Mick finally proving everybody wrong. Whenever they were passing the Hamilton, Checo, Charles Leclerc fight, in the corner, they had Max versus Mick. The F1 TV guys saw that it was also a good battle. And I went back to see it on the F1 Pro TV subscription network. And fuck, it's so good. And yeah, just Mick is starting to turn it on. I think we're about to see the Mick Schumacher, who I was telling you about, was a racing winner who's won championships in Formula 2, Formula 3, and karting, junior formulas, whatever. I think he's turning it on. And I think right now, he is about to show the world what he's made of. He's going to show the world the talent that he got from his old man.
Well, and you also have to think about it because there's been a lot of rumors surrounding whether Haas wants to retain him next year. So you got to think about it. He's fighting for his job.
Essentially, but apparently, and this is a rumor, I don't know if it's true or not, but Haas wanted to give Mick the boot before Silverstone, and Ferrari was like, no, you won't. He is going to stay with you.
You know they got a soft spot for him.
They got a soft spot for him. They also see the potential in him, and he's starting to show that potential. We saw it in Canada before his car broke down. We saw him with Zhou Guanyu and him fighting it out, and he wasn't winning because he was still being careful, but he's getting frustrated. He's getting put under pressure, and it seems like he's thriving in it, and he's just pushing forward. Hopefully, we get to see more Mick points finish, and by the end of the year, hopefully Mick proves, I deserve a seat in F1.
Hey, even if we see Mick get a pole
or podium or a race win, hell, I'm just happy for the boy.
Overall, this might have been my favorite race of the season that I've watched.
Definitely mine so far. But that was the Formula 1 F1 review. I could not do it justice by, writing it down and telling you people. If you have the chance, go check out the highlight reel on the F1 channel on YouTube. It's only about 7-8 minutes long, and it's some of the best racing I've seen in quite a while since Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen went at it all last year. It's definitely great, and yeah, that's pretty much the review. So, you got anything else?
I don't really have much else.
Then take us home, my boy.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we want to make sure that you listeners, though, that we welcome fan interaction. We want you guys to reach out to us, tell us what you think of the show, or tell us what you don't like. You can ask us questions, and we'll try to answer it as well as our pea-sized brains can. Tell us what you want to hear and what you don't want to hear, and share us with your friends, and tell the general public that we are here, and we exist. You can find us on Instagram at The Waterboy Pod or on Twitter at The Waterboy EXP. But until next time, this has been The Waterboy Experience. I'm Davis McLemore, and he's Jason Shaddix. Thank you for listening, people, and peace.
Second and goal just outside the 10. Carr dips it in there. It's Waller. He spins into the end zone for the touchdown. Watching greatness on one end. In LeBron, there's a dude with 35 in white getting it done.